to show you, not from a this is the module and what it does perspective, because there's loads of videos already on that. I just sort of want to go through how I might use it. I've dabbled with it a couple of times, using it as a sort of big droney type thing, but it can do a lot more. So just the very quick overview, there's 3 audio outputs which you can use in combination, or some of them are normal together. So the sine wave, there's a thing called even odd, which is a kind of complex, the more complex one with lots of harmonics, and there's a sub oscillator as well. Each of them can be output separately. In terms of controlling it, you've got your basic volt per octave in, but you've also got a MIDI, so that's quite, I suppose, rare for this small 8 HP. Is it 8? No, it's 6 actually, isn't it? Yeah, sorry, just looking at it. 6 HP, which is super small for the amount of stuff in here. So MIDI in and MIDI through. So this is great. I can take a MIDI in and then through that and type A into my disting or my polycinematic and sort of daisy chain a MIDI. So I've not really had a good MIDI flow through this, and this keyboard, the Q Nexus, outputs MIDI, and also, as you've possibly seen on previous videos, and perhaps I haven't used it yet, you can take one of the PAM's MIDI outs, PAM's Pro up here, to actually keep this in sync with PAM's. So this becomes a 3-track sequencer in time with the rack. So that's where this MIDI aspect comes in. And then there are various controls over the sound waves, the folding and things like that, and lots of modulation points, which we'll go through. So let's just start listening to it. I'll go through the outputs. So the first one is, the one that attracted me to this odd even sound. I'll just sort of get it to an initial state. Let's see what the sequencer's doing. I'll program a sequencer in. I'm in constant sequencer mode here, so I can just play different notes. So let's have a listen to that. So there's a little bit of delay on it. I'll take that off for the moment. So what you're hearing now is just the clean sound from this complex oscillator. And just by turning the FM index here, you can get some lovely rich sort of PWM type tones. And you can hear it on certain notes. It actually starts to create that very dirty clashing type thing. As we go over towards 3 o'clock and beyond, it gets very crazy. It sort of makes sense if I stop the sequencer temporarily. If you're playing low droney things, and you can hear each note is having a slightly different effect on the FM index, and you can find some really interesting sweet spots. So that's sort of pure PWM as you go past 12 o'clock, and you get this crossing over. And obviously it sounds great with a bit of reverb and delay. Pan it into the middle. So it's actually got a sub built in as well. So the way that you can take the sub out is just by, and again, this is on all the other reviews as well. So now we're just listening to the top part, and you can see as I'm oscillating the FM index here, that's where like a unipolar modulation would really bring it to life by itself. So that's effectively just one of the outputs. If I bring the sub back in, it goes pretty big pretty quickly. The other outputs, we've got a basic sine wave. I'll move all the patch leads so it doesn't get too busy visually. So the sine wave is actually very nice for certain things. So let's put a sequence, let's get a sequence going. Put it into record. So this one comes to life with this timbre control, which effectively starts to fold it. And on the extreme, it starts to create a really quite, I suppose, metallic sound, back to the smooth one. So it's great for sort of flowing things, and there's an octave switch here as well, of course. So during a performance, you can have quite a nice... Okay, let's just increase the rate. That reminds me of that Close Encounters thing. You remember Close Encounters? And then gradually increase the folding. And of course all these outputs are sent simultaneously, so we can go back to the odd even, the rich thing, which is apparently sort of, you know, not distorted, but complex sawtooths at that side. And as you go over to the right, on the odd even, we're not listening to that at the moment, that pushes it more towards the square. But while we're still just listening to the sine wave for the moment, you saw as I turned this up, we've actually got some a sub oscillator coming as well, which is actually the same as the output there. In fact, I'm going to check that. That doesn't cut it from the thing, so you can potentially have the sine wave with a sub coming from that output, plus, I'll put this into number 3, plus its own output, so we can just have the sub if we wanted. Let's make it a bit minory. Do. So that's just the sub, and we've got control over the sub octave as well. So if I press this tune button in, which I'll go through in a minute, and move this, we've got a choice of 3 octaves. To the right, a very low one, in the middle, which is the one that's sort of defaulted to, and then a sort of higher sub. So I'm pretty sure that one is actually the same pitch as the sine wave. So this is kind of cool if you wanted like a stereo with slightly different sounds going on. So I put the sub on one side and then the sine wave on another. Let's just go back to normal speed again. So as I now increase the folding, it's only going to affect the sine wave. So we've already got quite a, just on the softer sounds, quite a nice way to get some stereo. And I can change the sub, bring the sub into perhaps a bit later in the piece. And all the time, of course, we can bring Mr. Complex Oscillator in again. I'll just keep them in order here. So this one I'll put in the middle. So we've now got 3 going on. The sub, turn the sub off. turn the sine wave off. Now we've just got the complex oscillator. I'll call it the complex oscillator because it's kind of got a magic of its own, which gets to that point. All of these outputs, of course, benefit from some shaping and filtering. What we're listening to here is just the output from this, no filtering, no envelope shaping. Particularly this sine wave. So if I put that through a low-pass gate, which is right next, is in this section here, and then out of the low-pass gate, back into the output 2, and then we just need a sort of trigger. So I'll use let's use PAMS 5, which I don't know if you can see on the camera. It's just up here. So that's going to trigger the low pass gate, and we get this lovely, and this is kind of what we use a low pass gate for. Let's go into the high range. I'll just start it off again. So we're listening to just the sine wave through a low pass gate here. And as we fold it, get these lovely, sort of square wavy metallic things going on. And just traditional folding of the sine wave. And we can bring the sub in, of course. So it's already there with this one, but we can bring it in as a separate input as well, of course, which is playing constant. But we can also low pass gate the sub as well if we want a sort of bass line. So I'm going to in and out, and this one, the way this low pass gate works is that what's received on the first low pass gate here is sent to the second group as well, which is why they're kind of useful for things like this. In fact, rather than this sequencer, I could use my Moscow up here, which I'll patch in. Oh no, I have to do that on the CV, I'll do that later. This is just using MIDI at the moment from this keyboard. So yeah, the sine wave and the sub together. We could have some nice ratcheting going on there, and it's sort of instant sort of Berlin school. This is a slightly longer low pass gate on the top here, and then we've got something which is like based on the gate that's coming in, so I can change the excuse me, this is more about low pass gates and what the Godspeed's doing, but I can change the width of the input pulse so to get something more tighter. Right, and on all the time I'm not using at the moment, well, I'm not listening to the complex oscillator. Which would benefit, of course, from a bit of filtering. So let's put that into the filter and just a low pass, just to take some of the screechiness off the top. It's kind of hard to get into this filter with all these connections around it. And obviously I'm not modulating anything at the moment, none of these wave shaping type controls or the filter. So what you're listening to is all coming from the Godspeed, new Godspeed. It makes sense to put the bass in the middle, and I'll pan the other two oscillators either side. Let's fold the sine wave a bit. The sub's not going to change, of course. It's going to be pretty constant, but it's shaped by the low pass gate. So just using those three outputs, we can go from something quite soft, like just the sine wave, something like that, perhaps high up, and drop the octave. Bring in the sub. Obviously it wouldn't happen as fast as this in a sort of development piece. And then bring in the more distorted elements. Sounds like a bit organy at the moment, but as soon as I increase the FM index here, we get the more growling gradually being added. And in fact you could then drop out the other two and just sort of have a section with that guy. Obviously you change the sequence. And that's where we start to modulate the index CV and do a unipolar. It all makes sense. A bit of drum action, so let's just do kick drum. Also see if the whole thing's in time with the they're just showing that the keyboard's in sync with the piece. Need a bit of hi-hat action as well, probably. Turn that from clock 4. Just go back to the bass. So all you're hearing is the Godspeed through a low pass gate, two of the sounds, and one of them's just going through a filter. I'll get rid of the filter part at the moment. I'm just going to have the complex oscillator straight in so we can hear it better. So it's quite a nice sort of rich PWME sound. Admittedly they're all getting the same notes, of course. So this is the sine wave, which I'll fold a bit just so we can hear it. And then the richer oscillator. Another thing which I often do on my Berlin school stuff is we get a constant gate into the low pass gate, so a constant trigger, and then if we change the sequence to be more 3 time, we get this cross rhythm, which is kind of cool. So you can hear it here. So this one's playing exactly what the keyboard's doing. So I'll just start it off in time again. So if I change the keyboard to triplet time, the same notes are being sent to the sub and the sine wave in this case. So let's listen to the sub. So that's still getting a constant trigger from 5 here. We could actually, so kind of what I'm saying is we've got constant gates in time with the drums, but the notes themselves are changing in triplet time in this case. We could actually just change the gate, of course, so let's change the clock for the low pass gate to so that's now the triplets effectively. And then go back to the normal time. It's almost like electric guitar feedback. I just stopped the clock there so it will just play the last note that came out. If I take, let's break it down. So I'm going to take the sub out completely. We'll take the sine wave out completely. And all we've got is the modulation for this complex oscillator, which we'll play with in sort of drone mode. Big reverb and delay. We'll try a bipolar modulation on the FM index. Probably a bit too much effects there. Really drop the octave. And I'll play the drone manually. I'll stop the keyboard. Modulation is pretty obvious, so this is where modulating a modulator will give it more interest. So this is one on the expander's kind of cool for that. It just gives it slightly more variation in the modulation. Let's go back to the sine. So you can go from literally the ridiculous back to the sublime really easily. And again, all from this one module. I suppose in the past I would have been, having multiple modules to do this sort of lovely soft sine wave, bit of folding, which is very West Coasty. And all the time in the background you've got, I suppose it's sort of heaven and hell type thing. You've got this sort of crazy other oscillator which I'll bring in. And again, just the sine wave with the sub bass. Bringing that crazy drony thing. And the other thing with the complex part of it is you've also got white noise. If I press the tune button, keep your finger on it, and control this timbre, there's a little, you probably can't see it on the video, a little thing called noise. So I can add hear the noise there. Nothing else on apart from that single oscillator. I'll take sorry, I'll do that. Here we go. Sorry, the noise thing again. So this is good for kind of percussive things. So let's go back to something rhythmic. I've got the drums going again. And keyboard went to sleep, so I'll just re-trigger that. Let's get rid of some of the effects, sorry. So turn the noise off. And this will definitely benefit from a low pass gate. So I'm taking the complex oscillator back into the mixer, and as I add the noise, we're now going to get a lovely sort of percussive effect. So it's going to sound a bit sort of hi-hatty. Just control the width. We can filter that if I go up. So there's a lot going on in the sound. The timbre, even though the timbre's down, the noise is still full up. You get a sort of whistly sound, very metallic now. Around a bit so we can hear the hi-hats. So that metallic sound again, a bit of modulation, so it's not constantly metallic. One thing I've noticed with the module is, get rid of the drums, let's restart it. Sorry, we're just getting double, there we go. Sometimes this goes out of sync with the MIDI clock, and I just have to restart it, mainly because it cut out, and we're getting these double triggers. Anyway, what was I saying? Yeah, so the other thing I've noticed with the Godspeed, and I particularly notice on this lovely sine wave, is that if I don't tune it, we get some sort of pitchy, warbly things going on. Let's see if I can hear them. Get rid of the modulation. Low pass stuff, so it's pure sine wave coming out. So I notice when I power it up, the pitch, because it's got a built-in tuner, sort of warbles every now and then. It's actually quite nice. It gives it a bit of character. It's not doing it now, of course, when I want it to. I'll probably power it up, but in terms of tuning, it's pretty straightforward. If I just stop the clock, play a note, and then hold the tune button down, it will find the nearest C. And we've got the pitch control here, which will go up and down in semitones. And it's kind of cool, so if you kind of go off pitch for some reason, you can just press this button and it will find the nearest C for you. So like there, we're off slightly, still playing a C. Oh, sorry, I was long pressing it. So there we go, we're off pitch again, in the middle. Press it once, it will find the C. So that's great for repitching it. And so I think when it starts up, there may be just a little bug with it. So it was doing this sort of warbly things like this occasionally. I'm trying to simulate it when it was playing, which is quite nice. Leave it there. And again, I know I've done this, but the low pass gate, one of the reasons I've got it here, and there'll be another one, is to really make use of that sort of folded sine sound to get these sort of plucked percussive sounds. I'll just increase the rate of the clock going into the low pass gate. And then, like I said, prepare the other oscillator in sort of full blasting mode. I'll bring in the sub for the sine. So that's very plucky, and then the complex oscillator is going to be very sustained and legato. Obviously in our performance I can do the transposing on the keyboard itself. I don't need to use CVs and things because it's all coming from here. So that's kind of it. The modulation aspects, I suppose we'd hear it on the sine. If I just put a modulation on the folding, just a unipolar, kind of nice. Without, it hasn't got any bass in it. As before, take the sub bass, which won't be modulated but will provide a sustained legato low end, and control the sub bass. Sorry, the octave. Basically got 3 octaves controllable. Nice things going on there. We could throw some texture synthesizer on it. No, we won't. We'll just add a little bit of reverb. And obviously, even though it's being modulated, I can still control the position of the modulation, particularly on unipolar, so it's moving up and down from the set point here. So I could go full sine wave. Through the low pass gate, and now of course we're going to bring in screechy first oscillator. So yeah, I'll leave it there. The whole point of this demo is just to show how one 6 HP module can provide you with a lot of variation in sounds and the ability to mix in different aspects from very soft tones to sub bass tones and then to more screechy, crazy tones. So it should be fun using this, and hope you found that useful. And I'm not endorsed, of course, by Endorphin, just purely an oscillator I've had my eye on for a while. And then over here I've got U braid, so I might have a go with that one at a different point, mainly because it's one of the few versions of braids which has got these lovely timbre and colour sliders, so they're super useful in performance. So rather than just turning knobs, and you can actually be much more precise and see where things are. But anyway, hope you found that useful. Bye bye.